Hello all, I am Anushka and I'll be helping you understand the chapter Nutrition in Plants. Before starting this chapter, I would like to start with a very simple and basic thing. So, as you can see in this image, um, we have a puzzle, and this puzzle is made up of many pieces. So if we want to make a puzzle, we need these pieces. So if none of these pieces are there, then we cannot make the puzzle. So similarly, all living things on earth are made up of these tiny things called cells. So the cells uh, join together to form tissues, and many tissues together form organs. Organs together form organ systems, and organ systems together form an organism. So all living things are made up of cells, and the cells of different types of living things like plants and animals show a little variation, which means they are a little different from each other. So here, as we can see, we have an animal cell and a plant cell. So there are few differences, few main and basic differences. The first one is that the animal cell is circular or more like an oval, whereas the plant cell is rectangular. It's like a rectangle. And another difference is that the animal cell has only one layer called the cell membrane. So the red outline, the red or pink outline that you can see in the animal cell is called the cell membrane. Whereas the plant cell has two such membranes. The thinner dark green line is the cell membrane, and the thicker dark green line, the outer line, is called the cell wall. So these are the main differences between plant cell and animal cell. So let me ask you a very basic question. Why do we all eat? We all eat simply because we have to gain energy so that our body can carry out life processes. So now life processes are the changes that take place in our body, or the actions in our body which are very necessary for us to be living, like digestion. Digestion is a must for us to live. If we cannot digest the food that we have eaten, then there is no point of eating the food. Then similarly, heartbeat. If our heart isn't beating, then there is no blood flow in our body, and hence we won't be able to live. So those are called life processes, and we eat food so that we can gain energy to keep these life processes going. So as we gain energy, the life processes continue to take place, and hence we need to eat healthy food, to be particular, but we need to eat. And what is it in the food that gives us energy? It is the nutrients. So nutrients are the substances present in food which when we eat gives us energy, or which helps us carry out life processes. So nutrition is the process by which organisms consume food in order to gain energy to carry out life processes. So in order to live, to grow, and to repair worn parts of the body, we need energy, and we get this energy from the food we eat because the food is rich with nutrients. So the main nutrients are carbohydrates, proteins, vitamins, minerals, and fats. So it's because of the nutrients in the food that we are able to live and grow. So now, as I told you, nutrition is the process by which organisms consume food in to gain energy. Go back to a previous slide. I told you that there are three types of heterotrophic nutrition: saprophytic, holozoic, and parasitic. So now I will tell you more about parasitic. So the process by which plants make their food is called photosynthesis. And here, as you can see, we have the definition of photosynthesis, which says photosynthesis is a process used by plants and other organisms to convert carbon dioxide, water, and light energy into sugar or carbohydrate and chemical energy while releasing oxygen. So now, um, photosynthesis is this process. Basically, photosynthesis is this process by which plants can make their own food. So now how we need certain ingredients to make a dish, like for making sambar we need vegetables, we need spices, we need water, we need dal. So similarly, to carry out the process of photosynthesis, even plants need certain things. So those requirements of the plants are carbon dioxide, which is a gas which is found in the atmosphere. So this carbon dioxide, which is needed for photosynthesis, is taken from the atmosphere or the air. Then water. Water is absorbed by the roots from the soil. Sunlight. Sunlight is provided by the sun. And chlorophyll is a pigment. It's a green colored pigment which is present inside plants. So that's how plants have chlorophyll. So only when all four things are there can plants photosynthesize or carry out the process of photosynthesis. So now after at the end of photosynthesis we have two products. So photosynthesis admele two things are released. One is oxygen gas and the other is carbohydrates or sugar. Carbohydrates or sugar is nothing but starch that the plants have. So oxygen gas is what we all need to breathe, and sugar is eaten by the plant, and the extra sugar is eaten by the other animals in the form of vegetables and fruits. So now that brings us to the importance of photosynthesis. So photosynthesis is the only process which uses up carbon dioxide and gives out oxygen. So that is one main thing. So since it gives out oxygen, all other animals and all other living things can breathe. So it is required for other animals to breathe, and it releases carbohydrates or sugar, which means it provides food for all other organisms, all other living things. So even if you're a non-vegetarian, you need certain vegetables to add to your curry, your sambar, your dish, and we get those vegetables or those spices from plants, which means photosynthesis is a process which is important to the plant because they can make and eat their own food, and is also important for all the other organisms living around the plant, as it releases oxygen gas which helps the animals to breathe, and releases carbon dioxide sugar, I'm sorry, my bad, sugar, which is a source of food for animals. So photosynthesis literally means making in the presence of light. Photo means light and synthesis means making or creation. So photosynthesis means making food in the presence of light. So now let's know how plants fulfill their requirements for photosynthesis. So this is nothing but a stoma. So stomata is the singular word and stoma is the plural. So now as you can see, there is this opening over here, this white space is called the stomatal pore or the stoma. So this is like a hole, it's a tiny hole on the surface of the leaves. So when the stoma is open, the air enters the leaf, and since air has carbon dioxide, leaves receive the carbon dioxide when the stoma is open. And in the end of photosynthesis, when oxygen gas is liberated, oxygen gas comes out of the plant and diffuses or goes into the atmosphere through the stoma. So when the stoma is closed, no air can enter or leave the plant or the leaf. When the stoma is open, the air enters the leaf and also leaves the leaf. So when the air enters the leaf gets carbon dioxide, and when air leaves the leaf, it is releasing oxygen gas, which is required for all organisms for breathing. Then comes water. So now we will talk about how plants get their water. So water is present in the soil when we water plants, or because of heavy rains or any because of rains, water is absorbed into the soil, and the minerals in the soil get mixed with the water. So now the roots of the plant which are in the soil will absorb the water which has the minerals in it, and the roots, once they absorb the water, they transport this water, or they take this water to different parts of the plant through uh, these special tissues. So tissues is nothing but a bunch of cells together form a tissue. So plants get their so after the roots absorb water, it is sent to different parts of the plant through the water conducting tissue of the plant. So that's how the parts of the plant get the water requirement, or fulfill their water requirement. Sunlight is obviously provided by the sun. Yeah, sunlight is provided by the sun. And chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a very important thing. It is a green pigment, as I told you before, and it is present in only certain parts of the plant. So when you see a plant, you see that some parts of it are green, like the leaves, the stem, the base of the flower, and some other parts are not green, like roots are not green, flower petals are not green, fruits are not green. So whichever part of the plant is green in color will obviously have chlorophyll. Chlorophyll pigment is present in all parts of the plant which are green in color, and only where chlorophyll is present, photosynthesis can take place, because chlorophyll is required to trap the sunlight. So if the sunlight is trapped, can the process of photosynthesis occur. So if there is no chlorophyll, no sunlight will be trapped, and the plants won't have enough raw material, or they won't have all things that they need to carry out photosynthesis. So chlorophyll is a very important thing. Now, chlorophyll, as I told you, is present only in green parts of the plant, which means all parts of the plant which are green in color can carry out photosynthesis, which means leaves can carry out photosynthesis, stems can carry out photosynthesis. But if you look at other parts of a tree, like the trunk or the flower, they cannot carry out photosynthesis because they do not have any chlorophyll. And if there is no chlorophyll, no sunlight can be trapped, so the plants cannot carry out photosynthesis. So here is a word equation of the process of photosynthesis. So as you can see, carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of light energy, which is sunlight, and chlorophyll gives glucose and oxygen. Glucose is nothing but the carbohydrate or the sugar that plants produce. So how do we know that leaves actually carry out photosynthesis? So let me tell you about a quick experiment. So then when photosynthesis is carried out in parts of the plant, glucose is released. So now there is a particular thing called test for starch or test for glucose. So wherever there is starch, when you add iodine solution onto that part, it will turn blue-black. Iodine solution is brown in color, and when you add it on a part of the plant, on any part of the plant, and the part where you've added the iodine solution turns blue-black, then it means that starch is present in that part of the plant. If the iodine solution remains brown, it means there is no starch present in that part of the plant. So if you, as you can see in this picture, we have two leaves. The first leaf, the leaf on the left side, is green and yellowish in color, and the leaf on the right side is dark blue-black and brown. So wherever you see the green part, you can see that on the leaf on the right side, that area has turned blue-black. Blue-black is nothing but a dark bluish black color. So that is because that part of the leaf has starch. So as you can see, there is chlorophyll present in this much of the leaf, in this part of the leaf, due to which it is green. Since chlorophyll is present, it underwent photosynthesis, and since photosynthesis occurred, glucose was produced. So when the leaf was tested for starch, which means when brown iodine solution was added onto the leaf, it turned blue-black. But if the edges or the margins of the leaf, which are yellow in color, did not turn blue-black because there was no chlorophyll over there. So since it is not green, it means there is no chlorophyll over there. It is lighter than green. So there is no chlorophyll, and hence it remained brown. So the experiment that you can perform is you should take a potted plant, and potted plant is nothing but a plant inside a pot, a small plant, and keep it in a dark room for 72 hours, which is 3 days. So by keeping it in a dark room for 3 days, what we are trying to make sure is that any starch or glucose which was produced by the plant in any in before we are doing this experiment, that is when it was kept in sunlight or when it was growing, should be utilized by the plant. So let's say you're performing the experiment today. So maybe 2 days ago, the plant was kept in sunlight and it was growing. So now, if I have to perform this experiment, I have to make sure that the glucose that the plant has produced from the past 2 days is consumed by the plant. So that's why we keep it in the dark room. So in the dark room, since there is no sunlight, one of the 4 requirements are missing. So photosynthesis does not take place. So what the plant will do is it will consume the starch that it has produced previously. So after keeping the plant in darkness for 72 hours, we pluck a leaf of the plant and you test it for starch, which means you add brown iodine solution onto it and check if the color changes. The color will not change. The leaf will remain brown. It will not turn blue-black, and that is because there is no starch in it. The plant has consumed the starch that it had produced in the past 2 days or the previous 2 days. But now, if you take the same plant and keep it in sunlight for 3 days, and then you pluck a leaf of that plant and test it for starch, that is, if you add iodine solution onto it, it will turn blue-black, which means that photosynthesis has taken place and glucose has been produced. So that's why the iodine solution turns blue-black. So another variation of the experiment would be to check if chlorophyll is present in dark colored leaves. Now, I don't know how many of you have observed, but there are certain plants whose leaves are pink or purple or maroon or whitish in color. So to check if that plant also has chlorophyll, we perform the same experiment. We keep it in darkness for 72 hours. Then we pluck a leaf and test it for starch. The leaf will not turn brown. Then when you keep the plant in sunlight for 72 hours and then pluck another leaf and test it for starch, it will turn blue-black, which means that since chlorophyll was there, and sunlight was there, the process of photosynthesis could take place, and that's why glucose was produced. Since glucose was produced, the iodine solution turned from brown to blue-black. So this means that just because the leaves are darkly colored does not mean that they do not have chlorophyll. So a simple way to understand this would be if you take different kinds of watercolors or any different kinds of colors, and say you mix them all, like you mix green with red and brown, you add brown to that, and you add blue, and you add yellow, you add purple, you add orange, and then if you mix all these colors up, you will see that it's a very dark color. But just because the overall color is very dark does not mean that we did not add green to it. Correct? So similarly, in case of brightly colored leaves like purple leaves or pink leaves, what happens is these leaves do have chlorophyll, that is, they do have the green pigment, but it's just that they also have other pigments which are brightly colored. So since these colors mix up, we do not see the green color of the leaf. Type of nutrition. So let's talk about these two terms over here, parasite and host. Parasite, as you can read from the definition, is an organism that lives in or on another organism and benefits by deriving nutrients at the other's expense. Which means a parasite is an organism which will live on another organism and will take its nutrients or will take its food from the animal or plant it is living on. Now, if you look at the picture in the left, you can see that there is a green colored plant, And on the green plant you can see that there is this yellowish string like structure. That is another plant. The yellow plant is called cuscuta or amarble. So this amarble plant is a parasite because it lives and grows on this green plant. So amarble uh, cannot carry out the process of photosynthesis. So what it does is it lives on another green plant. So now this green plant can carry out photosynthesis, so it will make food. And amarble, since it lives on this green plant, it absorbs its food, it absorbs the nutrients from the green plant it is living on. So that's why a marble is a parasite. Whereas a host is an animal or plant on which a parasite lives. So if you again look at the same picture where you can see the marble plant, you can see that there is a green plant. So the green plant is the plant on which the marble is living, on which the marble plant is living. So since a marble, the parasite, is living on the green plant becomes the host, because a marble is absorbing its nutrients from the green plant. So a marble is the parasite and the green plant is the host. So common host for a marble is tomato plant, which you can see down here. Then there is holozoic type of nutrition. So there are these plants called insectivorous plants or carnivorous plants. So what these plants do is that they derive their nutrition by eating other animals or insects. So now there are two plants, Venus flytrap and pitcher plant. So Venus flytrap and pitcher plant are both green in color, as in they can carry out the process of photosynthesis and they can make their own food, but they eat insects to fulfill their nutritional requirements. So they need certain extra nutrients which they get by eating insects. So if you consider a person who is trying to build his body, who's exercising to build his body, the person eats his normal food along with some extra protein, like the person might eat more number of eggs or might eat more non-veg or might eat more dal. So this is not because the person is not getting enough nutrients from the food that he was eating previously. He eats eggs, dal, non-veg and all to get more nutrients so that he can grow better. So similarly, insectivorous plants or carnivorous plants eat insects so that they can grow better. So now in the next slide, I'm going to show you a video on insectivorous plants. You can see the plants Venus flytrap and pitcher plant in the video. So Venus flytrap a plant is the plant which has these two flaps with these spine-like things on the margin. So what happens is when an insect walks on the leaves, if it touches even one of those spine-like things, then the plant gets alert and it will close its flaps. And once it closes its flaps, the insect is trapped inside the plant, and then the plant will secrete certain chemicals. It will secrete certain juices which can kill the insect and digest it. So that's how they eat, and they absorb the nutrients from the insect. In case of pitcher plant, you will see that the pitcher plant has these hair-like things on the lid. So because the hair is facing downwards, the insects that go near it cannot hold on to it. They will slip and fall. Also, the inner wall of the pit of the plant is very slippery, so insects cannot crawl out of it. And the nectar which the pitcher plant produces is kind of toxic. Toxic means it harms the insect. So the insect cannot function properly after it drinks the nectar of the pitcher plant. So now let us watch this video. So let us watch this video now.
It's said sometimes it takes a wrong turn to get you to the right place. But landing up in this nightmarish neighborhood is purely a stroke of bad luck. For these Venus flytraps are hungry for flesh. With just a touch to one, and then two of the microscopic hair triggers, the plant's jaws trap the prey, setting in motion a bizarre all-in-one digestive system. The sealed pod floods with a lethal brew of digestive juices. Its mouth becomes its stomach, and finally its intestines, as it absorbs the nutrients. But this isn't the most efficient system, for a missed meal means energy wasted. High up above the flytraps, fellow carnivores, the pitcher plants, are a little more proficient. They're passive hunters firmly rooted in one spot. These plants make no attempt to hide in ambush. Once on the lip, the insect is as good as dead. Downward-facing hairs prevent a good foothold. The toxic nectar drugs them. Deep, waxy walls make it too slippery to crawl out. Others are also fighting for their lives. All the while, without their knowing, they're already part of the digestive process. Their remains will soon become part of the existing graveyard. The greatest gut.
So as I explained in the previous slide, this is the pitcher plant to the left, and that is the Venus flytrap. So now moving on, this is saprophytic type of nutrition, or saprophytes. So saprophytes are organisms which derive their nutrition from dead or decaying matter, which means when something is dying or rotting, or when it is going bad, that time these organisms called fungi or fungus singular and fungi plural, grow on such matter and they get their nutrition. So the most common examples of fungi are mushrooms and bread mold. So now how do these fungi reproduce? So there are these certain particles called spores present in the air. So when spores land on dead matter or humid or moist matter, they grow into the fungi. So the greenish white spots that you can see in the right, in the image on the right, is called molds. So now certain fungi can be eaten and are healthy. Some of them are not healthy and cannot be eaten. They can also cause diseases in plants and other animals. And some fungi are used as medicines. So a quick experiment that you guys can try out here is you can take a slice of bread and wet it with water and keep it outside for 2 to 3 days. And after you observe the slice of bread, you will see that there are these greenish whitish spots. So that is nothing but mold. It's a fungus. It's a type of fungi which grows on bread. It's called mold. So that is about saprophytes. Then moving on, symbiosis. So symbiosis is the relationship between some organisms which live together and share food and shelter, which means some organisms, they live together and help each other, and that's how they live. So now the most common example is lichens. Lichens is the relationship between algae and fungi. So algae is this greenish living thing. So now algae can carry out the process of photosynthesis, but it cannot absorb water. It is not that developed as a living thing. and fungus, on the other hand, cannot carry out the process of photosynthesis. So algae and fungi live together, and what they do is algae will carry out photosynthesis and provide nutrients to the fungi, and the fungi in return absorbs water and helps the algae with photosynthesis in a way, and also provides shelter for the algae. Lets the algae live with it. And the example on the right is where you can see rhizobium and plant roots. So as I explained earlier, rhizobium is a type of bacteria, and it lives on the roots of certain plants like dal or grams. So now the plant can undergo photosynthesis and provides nutrients and shelter to the bacteria, to rhizobium, and in return rhizobium converts the nitrogen in the air into a form which the plants can use. So now coming to the last part of the chapter, green. So now we come to the last part of the chapter, which is greenhouse. Greenhouse is a place where plants are grown. It is usually made of glass, as you can see in the picture. So why is it? Why do farmers prefer growing plants and crops in greenhouses? There are two main and basic reasons. One is that the amount of carbon dioxide and the temperature inside a greenhouse is very high. So that way plants can carry out photosynthesis faster and can grow better. And the other reason is that greenhouses keep pests away from plants, which means it keeps harmful insects away from plants. So certain insects can cause diseases among plants and can lead to the ill health of plants, and living things like birds also eat grains which are grown by the farmers. So to prevent all of this, greenhouses can be used efficiently. So this was the end of the chapter. I hope you guys understood what I tried to explain, and I hope you enjoyed nutrition in plants. Thank you all. Bye bye.